All right, welcome back to a very special edition of the Unreasonable Odds podcast. We are getting ready for the Super Bowl, just a couple of days away. Maybe it's today, depending on when you're listening. Maybe it's tomorrow. Doesn't matter. It's in a couple of days as we record here, Friday afternoon. We have a
There you go. That's what you do. You give timestamps. That's what I've been doing on the podcast lately that you don't do. Yep, Friday, February 11th episode of the Unreasonable Odds podcast. Super Bowl edition.
Go ahead. You take over. You got this.
Thank you. Don't knock that down. A lot of things look like they're rumbling over there. If you're one of our viewers, you ruined everything. Okay. Unreasonable Odds, Friday, February 11th. Super Bowl. I do love the college basketball Saturday card, but you can find all that on my Twitter, which you can follow me at Julian Edlow. You can follow Steve at SBLVI. You can follow the podcast at Unreasonable Odd. No S, of course, because we ran out of room. So we had our Wednesday edition that we recorded with professional sports bettor Bill Krakenberger. If you haven't listened to that, certainly worth going back and listening. Bill doesn't just throw out plays all the time, but he came on and gave out a couple of plays that he is on for the Super Bowl, more than a couple of plays that he is on for the Super Bowl. So well worth your time. Also this week, congratulations to the 25 listeners that did receive Super Bowl showdown tickets for the Millie Maker contest. Use them. Can't save them now. Football season's over. Use them. Remember to use them, and good luck. We hope you guys win some money.
Yep.
And we have a very special guest coming up for this big event. Matthew Berry from ESPN. If you play fantasy, you know who Matthew Berry is. It's as simple as that. So, Steve,
if you've seen the Avengers, you know who Matthew Berry is.
Yeah, I don't do that stuff. I have not. So, in that aspect, I have no idea who Matthew Berry is.
Yeah, but we're really looking forward to that. We'll get into some of the prop bets for the Super Bowl. Julian and I will also be tweeting out a ton of splits over the next couple of days on how the public is betting these splits as well. So it may surprise you. You know, we got the Gatorade colors out there, heads or tails. Who's taking that? So everything is going to be up on our Twitter pages. So make sure to do that. Go ahead.
If you need splits on the coin flip to decide which way you're going, then I can't help you.
I was actually curious, so I wanted to look and see how that looked.
Okay.
Maybe we can even ask Matthew Berry about that. I mean, everybody's got an opinion on this one. Might as well get his too. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
It is the burning question that people want to know. That is why we asked him to come on, just to ask him that question. Got to get the expert spin, you know what I'm saying?
Heads or tails, end of interview.
Speaking of that interview, let's go to it right now.
All right, everybody, welcome back in to the Friday, February 11th Super Bowl edition of the Unreasonable Odds podcast. No time to waste. Special guest, we teased it earlier, Matthew Berry from ESPN. If you play fantasy football, if you bet on sports, you probably already know who he is. Matthew, thank you for coming on with us, man.
My pleasure. How are you guys?
Doing
it's
great.
Super Bowl Friday, so we're good.
As
I imagine you are. Before we get into this game specifically, when we bring new guests on the Unreasonable Odds podcast, we love to play a quick little icebreaker game called Know You Better. So
I see what you guys did there, because it's a betting podcast, and the word better could mean like a bettor, somebody who gambles on sports, but also know you better, like get to know somebody more in depth. So it's a nice play on words. I wanted you guys to understand that it didn't go over my head. Like, I understand the very clever wordplay the two of you have concocted with this segment, Know You Better.
I'm pretty sure it was one of our producers' ideas, but we'll take credit for it.
Yep.
And
well,
it is.
I'm with you. I got it. I'm 100. I just, some people like, did I catch that subtle humor? And I just wanted to let you know, yes, I did.
Perfect. And for clarification, it is spelled with an O.
Right. That's
so now you know which one.
Because know you better would be the normal phrase, but because you misspelled it with an O, that's the double entendre, if you will. That's the dual meaning. That's where you're like, I get it. Yes.
All right. Well, now that you have such a good grasp on this game, we will start off with, and this doesn't need to be, most money you've won on anything. It doesn't have to be the highest plus odds. It's just your personal favorite bet that you have ever won.
It's the one I wrote about. So I wrote this article on ESPN.com this week. It was a Super Bowl props betting column. And my oldest son, David, is a big sports gambler as well. And so I live in Connecticut. And so this is the first year that I've ever been able to legally bet on sports because it came online at the very start of the football season. We only have 3 sports books we can choose from, unfortunately, but that's a rant for another day.
DraftKings is one of them. You got mobile DraftKings, so you're all set.
I am a DraftKings customer. I have a DraftKings account. I have many crowns. So anyway,
Wow.
But
humble brag.
I don't want to brag about my, the size of my crowns. But anyway, I'll merely just say this, which is, so anyway, David and I, you read the article, but it's just basically something that David and I bond over is our, is our both love of sports gambling. And so we had a 4-leg parlay in week 18 of the NFL season. And it basically came down to the Raiders-Chargers games where we had the over. And it was a back and forth game. And anyway, so I take you through the game, but that particular bet, because David and I had sweated it all day long and we were excited about it. And we both took the same parlay. And so that was my favorite one, just because it was something that I shared with my son, was this 4-leg parlay. And you can read the article on ESPN.com.
Oh, that's good stuff too. I mean, that's really fun too. So obviously people have their favorite wins. What's the worst beat that you have taken, or what's one that just like sticks out in your mind? And that was like, oh my God, that was a brutal one.
Well, there was another parlay that I did. It was during the playoff games. It was a same game parlay, and it was like a 7-leg same game parlay, and I hit everything in the game except I took Scotty Miller over 8.5 receiving yards. It was the Tampa Bay Rams game, and Scotty Miller finished with 8. He had 1 reception for 8 yards, and I'm just like, I can't, stupid, with no Godwin and no Antonio Brown. I like the over on 8.5, and just didn't get.
You got to
lower. So that was a brutal.
You got to lower the shoulder there and pick up another yard.
Yep.
Just saying.
And if I'm not mistaken, too, if I remember this correctly, I think he had the first reception of that game too, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was very early on. Very early on, like of all the like props, I was like, that's the easy one. Like right. I thought, there were a couple others, but like like all my touchdown scores hit, and anyway, what are you gonna do?
All right. Well,
I will tell you this. The other one, I'll give you one other one. I'll just say, like, so in the playoffs, I made my, I do fantasy football for ESPN, right? And because fantasy football is a huge business for the company, and I do a lot. I do a daily podcast. I do a times a week show for ESPN Plus. We do a 3-hour show on Sunday. I write a column. I rank. They keep me busy. And so as a result, even though I personally bet in my life, I wasn't doing any gambling content during the season. But with the season over, I started to do some gambling content. And so they were like, do you want to do some stuff like on Daily Wager, our show, and SportsCenter, blah, blah, blah. So the very first one I ever did was I took Josh Jacobs over 16.5 rushing attempts against the Bengals in the wild card round. And if Jerome Boger could have kept a flag in his pocket for one time, I hit that. Like, I really wanted that bet just because it was like my first ever sort of public bet, and like he easily would have gotten the rush down to the 1 yard line, and they call the really ticky tack holding call that takes away a rushing attempt, and it takes away another one because he easily would have gotten their first and down, first and goal in the 1. You figure Jacobs gets that one, and then it's a close game, and all he needs is one more, either 1 or 2 more. I forget exactly to hit it, but he easily would have hit it, and that call, and I'm just like screaming. So that was another brutal one.
Yeah,
thank you for asking about painful memories. Thank you for bringing that up and making me relive that. That was nice.
I could have our longest podcast in the history of Unreasonable Odds if we just let me go on bad beats and memorable losses. And it would be our longest episode yet.
So I want to hit on some of the stuff that you have on ESPN.com, your love-hate article, which is up right now, ESPN.com/chalk. I know you can get it that way. It's also on ESPN Plus. You basically have 10 bets that you laid out here, 5 that you love, 5 that you hate. And there's a lot that I agree with, but I wanted to get one of these ones out there because we kind of feel the same, but I also wanted to kind of get your insight on this one. Was Cam Akers the under 83.5 rushing and receiving yards? And Julian and I have been talking about this throughout the week. You know, Sony Michel was a little bit more involved last week. We know Akers got banged up, and that's probably the reason why. But McVay's also been talking about, you know, Henderson being active for this game as well. So I feel like this is one of the biggest question marks, is how much of a workload is Akers realistically going to get in this game? Because quite frankly, at least how I felt, since he's come back, they've been feeding him the ball, but he just hasn't looked great when he's been taking the ball. He's not gaining a lot of yards, after contact. So what at least was your reasoning for liking the under of the 83.5?
Well, first off, I agree with a lot of the things you said, like concerns about injury. Is he 100% healthy? Concern about workload. Sony Michel and potentially Darrell Henderson on Sunday. We also think about the fact that, you mentioned a ton of work, but super inefficient, lost in the fact, I can't believe this guy had an Achilles injury 8 months ago or whatever it is, and now he's playing. But against the Buccaneers, he was 24 for 48 yards, 24 for 48 with a couple of brutal fumbles. It was an awful stat line. And so in terms of the number, he's gone under it in 2 of the last 3 games during the playoffs, right? He's hit it once. He hit it once against Arizona when he had 95 yards, but if you look closer at that game, he got 40 of those 95 yards on a trick play from Odell Beckham Jr., where Beckham threw a pass. And so, listen, it's a Super Bowl. Maybe there's a trick play or 2 in there. The only concern, but I just don't think, because of the injury, because of the usage, because they haven't used him in the passing game all that much, I like the under on the total yards. I'm a little nervous about the rushing yards prop only, just because teams can run on Cincinnati.
Sure.
And so if he is healthier and he gets hot, and the Rams are up, he could easily hit the rushing number. But I think given the fact that the combined rushing and receiving, I like the under here as well. I just think there's too many factors going against Akers in this one.
Yep. I think the Rams backfield is going to be, just from a player prop standpoint in this game, is one of the biggest things to key in on, especially with Henderson's status up in the air, but McVay saying he thinks he's going to go, and then saying that they're going to ride the hot hand. So that means all 3 potentially are in the mix, and we'll see where it goes from there. So one last thing, just go ahead.
In 2 of the 3 games, not that Arizona game, again, he had the fluke play from Beckham, but the other 2 games, under 70 yards from scrimmage. The number's 83.5. And so when he was healthier and getting all the work, he went under this number in 2 of the last 3, right? And he got banged up in the last one, but whatever, he was out there. And so now we're still not sure about the health, and there's a chance that, there's some competition in Henderson. And even if Henderson doesn't have a huge game, if Henderson gets 5 touches in this game, that's significant because those are 5 opportunities Akers isn't getting.
Yep. No, Steve and I both cashed on some Akers unders in the NFC Championship game. We're back on some in this game. I will say, before we go to the Bengals backfield, Sony Michel's rushing attempts prop did come up in the last 24 hours on DraftKings Sportsbook. It is 4.5 carries. So I did throw on Twitter. I'm going to throw it into my article. I'm going to play Sony Michel over 4.5 carries, even if Henderson plays, because of what McVay said. They're going to try them all, and they're going to see who has the hot hand. Michel has 10 plus carries in 2 of the 3 playoff games. Akers, those backbreaking fumbles against Tampa. What if he fumbles early and they just go with Michel and Henderson? It's just 5 carries is not much. And Sony Michel had a great Super Bowl against the Rams a few years ago. So he's got the experience the other backs don't have. But let's go into the Bengals backfield, because you have Joe Mixon on your love side and on your hate side. Love the receiving over 26.5, which I am on with you.
Yep.
And you hate the rushing yards. You want on under 64.5 rushing yards for Mixon. I haven't bet that one, but I tend to agree with you. He's gone. You're probably going to say this. I'm going to steal one piece of your argument before you go here. He's gone over on the receiving yards 5 in a row. I know that. And that is one of the reasons that I am on it. Tell me why you are loving Joe Mixon in the receiving game and hating him in the rushing game.
Yeah, well, you already mentioned over 20. He's hit this number in 5 straight, right? So 27 or more receiving yards in 5 straight, as you noted. Over that stretch, he's run at least 23 routes in every single game. He's got a 15.5% target share. We don't know the status of CJ Uzoma, right? And so could there be 1 or 2 more targets? Think about how the Cincinnati Bengals tried to attack the Chiefs. They're like, they ran Mixon first and second down. They're like, we know our offensive line is bad. And one way to mitigate that is like, they can't sack us if we don't pass. So they tried to establish the run, and they ran. But what happened is that Joe Burrow got in these 3rd and long situations constantly, and then they had to make a furious comeback, and it ended up working out. But I don't think when you sit there and go like, okay, again, our offensive line isn't great, and we're going against the Rams defensive line, which is even better than the Chiefs defensive line, I don't think they're going to do that. So one way to mitigate an imposing pass rush is quick dump offs to your running back. And so that's my expectation here, is that whether it's the Rams blitzing, whether it's just them coming out, whether it's more of a strategy, I think they involve Joe Mixon quite a bit in the receiving game, whether it's on design plays or just, again, quick read, hot read, just trying to get rid of the ball very quickly. He's out there, obviously he plays a ton of snaps. And also we expect the Bengals to be trailing in this game.
And I think it's incredible too that the Bengals took so long to kind of get him involved in the receiving game, because you look back in the beginning of the season, he was lucky to get maybe 2 targets a game. And then we saw in that championship game against the Chiefs, Burrow was trying to get the ball out so quickly because of the impending pressure, because we saw how much the Titans got that on him, and the ball is naturally going to Mixon. So I was surprised that it's taken so long to get the ball to him, but I think it's been a better game plan for them because he's a very efficient pass catcher, and he can gain some yards after the catch too. I'm surprised it's taken this long.
I am too. I didn't love Zach Taylor's game plan against the Chiefs. Whatever, they're in the Super Bowl. It all worked out. But I feel like they got a little lucky to be here. And certainly they did themselves no favors offensively early in that game. So I agree with you. He's a weapon. He's a weapon in the receiving game. They've used him a lot there with success. And so, yeah, give me the over here on the receiving yards. And just conversely of that, like that's also why I'm taking, in terms of a correlated bet, I'm taking the under on the rushing yards. He's had under 60 rushing yards in 6 of the past 8 games. So he hasn't really hit that number. And I don't know what it is on DraftKings. Last time I looked, I think it was 62.5. I'm now in California, so I can't, it's very frustrating. I had to put in all my bets before I left Connecticut. But, but anyway, but like he's gone under this number in 6 of the last 8 games. He's averaging just 3.46 yards per carry over that stretch. And as we talked about how good this Rams defensive line is in the postseason, they're allowing 42 rushing yards a game total. They're allowing 42 rushing yards a game, and the number here is over 60 for just Joe Mixon alone. We expect them to be down this game. I love the under on Joe Mixon rushing in this one.
So we want to ask you a couple of fantasy questions too, because obviously you're one of the top fantasy gurus in the industry. What is your favorite fantasy play in this Super Bowl game? Do you think there's anybody that you like out of everyone playing in this game? This is the guy I got to be going to.
Well, look, I mean, everyone, my little Cooper Kupp, right? But that's sort of like, it depends on, we're talking a cash game, we're talking a single game, we're talking cash game, or we're talking a big tournament, a GPP, that kind of thing like this. I will say, how about this? I do think everyone's going to talk about, should I go Chase? Should I go Higgins?
Yep.
I think Tyler Boyd has a chance here, right? End zone target for the past 5 games, multiple red zone targets and an end zone target in 2 of the last 3 games. Again, Uzoma is either not going to play in this game or going to be very limited here. They got Eric Weddle, 4,000-year-old Eric Weddle in the middle of the field. And so, between the hashes this year, even before they had the injuries and they have to ask Eric Weddle to get out of his living room and come throw on a uniform, Rams allowed the 2nd highest completion percentage between the hashes. He actually leads the Bengals in targets and catches between the hashes. So it's an area to attack on the Rams. again, second highest completion percentage allowed between the hashes. And who do they look to between the hashes? They look to Tyler Boyd. So one of the props that I had in the column was Tyler Boyd anytime touchdown, who has, at plus money, really good plus money. But I do think that would be somebody who is probably under rostered in showdowns and that kind of thing.
Definitely.
I like that. And you got him listed there at plus 190. So you're almost doubling your money on Boyd to reach the end zone. Let me just see what he is on DraftKings Sportsbook right now. Oh, yeah. I think really good plus money on Tyler Boyd to reach the end zone. So there you go. Let's finish up on this game really quick. It sounds like you are a potential Rams backer. Spread is down to 4 here. Who do you think wins and covers this Super Bowl? And I'll tell you this, I'll give you a stat real quick before you answer. You're just picking winners here because the winner of the Super Bowl is 47-6-2 against the spread.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you. Because of what I do for a living, I focus on player props. That's where I find my edge. I think the Rams win. If I was told I had to bet the line, I would take the Rams, given the 4. I think it's close. The only reason I'm nervous about the 4 is it's going to be a close game. We expect to be a close game at least. And you have 2 really good kickers. And so you can just see Zach Taylor doing something like, I'm down 7, whatever. Let me, I'll just kick a field and I don't know. So that's just because they're really good field goal kickers, it makes me a little bit nervous. But yes, I do think the Rams win, and I think it's more likely that the Rams cover. If you're asking me to, am I taking if the line's 4, am I taking Rams or I'm taking the Bengals? I'm taking the Rams. But I'm just being honest. I didn't bet the line. I didn't bet that. I do think the Rams.
It's a Super Bowl podcast. We got to pin you down while you're here and make you pick the Super Bowl. Those are the rules.
I'm pinned. Consider me understood. I'm pinned. Pinned. So now you know me better with an O.
There we go.
Yes. Correct. Very good way to tie it all together there.
Yeah. That's what's called a callback. For you,
Yes.
In the back.
All right. Well, we just got another minute here. Steve, anything else we want to wrap up with?
We got to get the pressing question. Is it heads or tails on the coin flip?
This is what everyone will be judging you on.
Yeah, fair enough. I'll say tails.
All right. That's what I like, baby. Yes.
Tails never fails.
Tails never fails. I'll give you I don't know where this prop is. I think it's somewhere, but I do like, in terms of just really goofy props, I do like yes on will Eminem have a hat or hoodie for the Super Bowl.
I've heard that. I don't know if we don't have halftime props up on DraftKings Sportsbook yet, and I don't know if we will or not. But yes, I've heard people love Eminem to be wearing a hat for that performance.
Yeah.
Which obviously, we'll make sure we note that's your best bet. Matthew Berry came on and said Eminem.
Yeah. If you guys could tweet that out and then also put some paid social marketing behind it just to make sure it's, maybe put it. You guys are probably doing a Super Bowl ad. Maybe put it in that too. That'd be great.
Yeah, that's perfect.
That'd be fantastic.
I've been trying to crack the Super Bowl ad for a couple of years and it hasn't worked, but I'm still going to keep trying and working on that.
Yeah.
I think I'm Super Bowl commercial material.
I do. I absolutely. Hey, we could use Jerry Rice or Julian.
Right.
You got to give the people what they want. People confuse me with Julian Edelman all the time. Our names are very similar.
I believe that.
Yeah.
You look like a slot receiver.
Yes. I don't have much speed, but I could definitely get over 8.5 yards. I would put my shoulder down for that extra half a yard.
There you go.
All right.
You're the anti-Scotty Miller.
Yes, I'm the anti-Scotty Miller. That is Matthew Berry dropping some fantasy knowledge, dropping some love-hate knowledge on the player prop market. Make sure that you check out his column on ESPN. If you're not one of his 1 million and something Twitter followers, at Matthew Berry TMR. You can become one of them. Matthew, thank you so much for joining us. Seriously, I'll give you 2-second story. I vividly remember sitting in college with no major and being like, I have no idea what I'm going to do. And as I'm doing this, I'm reading a Brad Evans article on my laptop, and Matthew Berry is on my TV. And I'm like, well, these guys are talking about like fantasy sports and writing about it. So that's like the one thing I like. Why don't I just try and do that? And boom.
Right.
What do you know?
These two jamokes can do it. I can definitely do it.
Yes, exactly my thoughts.
Look at that. How hard can it be if these two idiots have made a career of it somehow? So yeah, random story. Brad Evans started with me. Like before I came to ESPN, I had an old website called towntomrroto.com, and Brad was somebody who was posting on my message boards.
Yep.
Oh,
I thought it was an interesting writer and a unique point of view. And I said, you want to come try writing for me? And so he did. And obviously he's had a great career.
I rember those days.
Yeah,
there it is.
Random story.
Yes. No, I love it. It all ties together way back in the day. All right. Matthew Berry, ESPN, Unreasonable Odds podcast. Follow him on Twitter. Follow us on Twitter. Good luck to all of the listeners in the Super Bowl, whether it be showdown contest, prop bets, one of the million other bets that you can have out there, Eminem wearing a hat, anything. Good luck to you making your money this weekend. Unreasonable Odds going on break for a couple weeks after the Super Bowl. We will be back in March for plenty of March Madness content. Thank you for listening. Good luck, everybody.